What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
I am Iron Man.
You are a toy!
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
Server Anakin! I have the high ground!
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
I'm simply saying that life, finds a way.
Welcome back to the Big Movie Bois podcast, the only podcast to survive the Battle of Helm's Deep. I'm your host, Jeremy Bauman, and with me as always is Bob Liebel.
What's up, Big Movie boys and girls?
And Ben Stitch.
How's it going out there, everyone? Today I just wanted to bring up real quick a shout out to one of our own here on the podcast, Bob Liebel, for making the all-decade team for his track team at college. Is that what it is, Bob? Top 5?
It was our conference, the entire SUNYAC conference. So that's
the
division
conference. That's
the division Buff State was in. They pick certain people that fit the parameters from each school in the conference, and I was one of them.
Jeremy, did you know Bob? Did you know he was this good? Because I didn't. It never really dawned on me Bob was that good at track.
I mean, I knew he was some sort of fast guy, but no, I'll admit, not quite to this degree.
Yeah, you wouldn't know by looking at me, but I used to be able to run really fast.
But I can't believe you actually did that. Was that you ran the 100 meter, 400 meter? What is it? Just for those two?
So it was more as like a collective as the entire resume. So I mean, it was just based off the events I ran, conference titles, like outstanding athlete of the meet performances at our conference championship. That's what got it for me.
Damn, that's impressive.
It just kind of goes to show you the lack of respect that track and field gets.
No, exactly. If Bob played basketball or football, we would have been going to every game or whatever.
No, I had my friends go to one track meet over the 4 years I ran in college.
And the listeners won't know this because they don't get to see us every week, but Bob is one of those athletes that after they retire just completely lets himself go. He's gained 40 pounds. He looks terrible.
Kind of like a White Goodman at the end of Dodgeball.
Exactly.
That's true. The listeners probably know the reason why. It's that sweet, sweet alcohol.
Bob, do you think you also set a record for most alcohol consumed during a season, in proportion to how well you ran?
I probably made the All-SUNYAC drinking team. That's for damn sure. I'd be number one. I'd be athlete of the decade when it comes to that.
I also didn't realize you had 2 degrees then too, Bob. So congrats on that. Jeez, I learned more about you from that article than I knew my whole life.
It's funny too because they asked me what I was doing, the guy from Buff. So the conference released an article naming everybody in the conference that made the all-decade team, and then Buff State put out their own little article. So I got a guy from Buff State reach out. He's like, "Oh, what are you up to these days?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck, that's the worst question you can ask somebody like me. What are you up to these days?"
Well, you told him you host a very successful movie podcast, right?
I was very disappointed when I didn't see that. You could have got the plug out there.
I wish to God I did that, but they put where I work, and I had so many people off of my Snapchat or Instagram that I posted on. They're just like, "You work there?" I'm like, "Oh God, there was a lot of people learning things about me from this article or this snippet." I mean,
well, thankfully, Bob will not be competing in this week's Big Movie Bois Presents Who is the Biggest Movie Boi Challenge Duel Edition. If you remember back to a couple weeks ago, we did our first Duel Edition version of the Big Movie Boi Challenge. I hosted it. It was all about actor stage names. Bob and Ben competed head-to-head. A lot of cheating took place. It was kind of a shit show altogether. But ultimately, we decided Bob was going to host this next round of the Duel Edition. Bob, go ahead, take it away. We have no idea what to expect.
So for this week's the Big Movie Bois Present Who is the Biggest Movie Boi Challenge Duel Edition, I went with the route of famous movie lines. Now I put together this competition here. I'm going to call it uncheatable. If you guys I don't even think you could find a way to cheat on this because it'd just be too hard. This is pretty hard. I mean, I'm kind of saying this now. This could be completely wrong. You guys might be able to ace this, but I think it's pretty hard. The way this is going to work, there's going to be 4 multiple choice questions for each of you. These questions are based off of famous movie lines that are often misquoted. For each question, you will pick between 3 different quotes, one of which is the correct quote from the movie. Keep in mind, the answers are all very, very similar, just with slight changes in wording. Whoever gets the most right will win the Big Movie Bois Challenge, and there is a tiebreaker if needed, which I hope we don't need to get to. But how's the direction sound to you guys? Does it sound like it makes up enough sense? It's just going to be 3 questions. You're gonna get the name of the movie, and then you're gonna get it's gonna be 4 questions each. You're gonna get the name of the movie, and then your 3 answers to pick from A, B, or C.
Makes sense to me.
Sounds good, but my only question is, are we both getting the same 4? Or
No.
is that it?
So this is another reason I went through and I picked. So you have 4 movies, and you have 4 movies, Jeremy. I tried to be as fair as possible. I think the first 2 for each of you, I know that you have both seen, and then the last 2, I don't know if you've seen, but you should probably at least know of the movie. I'd be shocked if you didn't. So this could come back to bite me. I might have picked horrible movies for each of you.
I hope it ends up 0-0.
Yeah, that would suck. Let's go with an example though, just for the listeners at home that might not get it, or just to fill in the blanks. So this is how it's going to work. Okay, I'm going to name the movie Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back.
Damn it! This is as soon as you started explaining the rules, this is the one movie I thought I could get the misquoted line from.
This is probably the most famous misquoted movie line, and that was the inspiration for the list. So I'll start by reading them. So A, Luke, I am your father. B, no, I am your father. Or C, you never knew, but I am your father.
I do know this one for the record.
Okay, yeah, let's just either of you can answer it. This one doesn't count. It's just the
Jeremy,
example.
go ahead, because I do not know it.
It is B, no, I am your father.
There we go. It's commonly quoted as Luke, I am your father, but that's not the correct line. So that's probably the most famous one. That was the inspiration for the list. But
Bob,
now that we
correct
got
me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Luke says, "You killed my father," and Vader says, "No, I am your father."
Damn, Jeremy's gonna fucking destroy you, Ben.
Damn it.
All right, so it's a bunch of different movies. Are you guys ready to start?
Let's do it.
Let's roll.
Okay, all right, let's kick it off. So the first one is actually for Ben. The movie is Forrest Gump. Option A, Mama always said life is like a box of chocolates. B, Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates. Or C, Mama always said life is a box of chocolates.
God damn it.
This is where it's going to get tough. I said some of them are basically one word is separating them. So you would actually probably have to know the movie.
Well, I know this movie. I have seen it probably like 5 times. Can you give me the first one again? Because that's the one I'm leaning towards, but that's also the one I think is then misquoted. So just give me the first one again.
A is Mama always said life is like a box of chocolates.
I'm going B, even though I don't completely remember what it was, but that's the one that I think sounded the most correct to me.
Option B is Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates, and option B is correct.
Damn.
Ben got it.
Jared, did you know that?
I would have guessed A initially, but again, I would have second guessed myself because I would have assumed that was the misquoted version.
Yeah,
That's how I got commonly, from the article that I pulled these from, A is the commonly misquoted line. So that's what I would have fucking picked too. But moving on to question 2, this question is for Jeremy. The movie is one I know he's seen. It is The Silence of the Lambs.
I've only seen it once.
Ooh, okay. This is possibly a tough one. We'll see how you take it. So A, good evening, Clarice. B, good morning, Clarice. Or C, hello, Clarice.
Oh, this is good.
Are we sure that all of those lines weren't said at some point?
They probably have, but we're talking about the scene where they meet for the first time, the most iconic
Right.
meeting of them in the movie. Do you know the scene I'm talking about, though, when she comes down into the...
Yeah, I can imagine it in my head, and unfortunately, all 3 of these lines make sense there.
Right? Yeah.
And this is also a great plug for the new CBS show, Clarice, that was shown to us about 100 times during the Super Bowl.
Heard it was a bomb.
It looks terrible.
It looked horrible.
It looks really bad. I don't know. Morning doesn't sound right. Could be evening, but I'm gonna go with the third one. Hello, Clarice.
Jeremy picked C. Hello, Clarice. And Jeremy is wrong.
Yes.
The actual...
Wait, Bob, let
correct
me take a
line-
guess then.
Okay, let's hear it, Ben. What?
I watched this recently for the first time, like around Halloween this year. I would say good morning, Clarice. I felt like it was in the morning.
Nope, it was actually in the evening, Ben, because the correct answer is option A. Good evening, Clarice.
Well, at least I didn't lose points.
All right. That was a tough one, Jer. We're moving on to the third question. This one is for Ben. The movie is Jaws. Option A, we're going to need a bigger boat. Option B, I think we may need a bigger boat. Or option C, you're going to need a bigger boat.
Shit, I have not seen Jaws.
You know the line, though, right?
Yeah, no, and I think we're going to need a bigger... I know the quote is, we're going to need a bigger boat, so I'm going to go with it's not A. Because that makes me think it's that one. Does he say you're going to need a bigger boat? I think we may. I'm going to go with B. I think we may need a bigger boat, because that seems close enough to the original one.
Ben picked option B. I think we may need a bigger boat. And option B is wrong. Jeremy, what do you got?
I would have picked B as well.
You would have picked B? All right, well, the answer actually is C. You're going to need a bigger boat.
Damn it. I just assumed... Everyone always says we're going to need a bigger boat, so I just get assumed.
That is the commonly misquoted one.
I feel like I watched part of Jaws recently, and I feel like they do say, I think we may need a bigger boat, but maybe you're messing with my memory here.
Well, but maybe he says it like early on or something, and then like Bob's talking about when the shark's attacking.
Right, yeah, we're talking about the iconic moment.
There is a chance for this one and the one before that those lines may have been said, but for the sake of this, it's like, think of the iconic line.
Right.
So, yeah, if anybody tweets at us at Big Movie Boys or comments on our Instagram post and calls us dipshits, I'm
agree.
sorry. yeah, you're right. You're technically right. All right, moving on to the fourth question. This one is for Jeremy. The movie is The Wizard of Oz. Option A, Toto, we can't be in Kansas anymore. Option B, Toto, I've got a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. Or option C, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore.
Haven't seen this movie in a while, but as soon as you said B, that one sounded right to me, so I'm just going to lock in B.
Jeremy picked option B, Toto, I've got a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. And option B is correct. We are tied at one apiece.
There we go.
That sounded right.
Like I said, it's been a while, but that one sounded right.
I thought it was C. That's what I would have picked.
That's the common one, I feel like.
Yeah.
Right.
This one is one that I don't... Moving on to question 5, this one is for Ben. This is one that I doubt that you've seen this movie, but I think you should know the line. The movie is Wall Street, starring Michael Douglas as Gordon Gekko. Option A, greed, for the lack of a better word, is good. Option B, greed is good. Or option C, gentlemen, greed is good.
Okay, so I've never seen this movie. I've seen the remake with Shia LaBeouf. Great movie.
Yikes. I wish I knew there was a remake. I would have put whatever he says in this to trick you up.
I don't know this line. But I'll go with C, the gentleman. I feel like you read that as Michael Douglas, and now I think it's the answer.
Ben picked option C, gentlemen, greed is good. And this is not correct. The correct answer is A, greed, for the lack of a better word, is good, which I'll say that I did a little... there was actually a longer quote that went into this, but I cut that part out because there is, too much nonsense. I took the part about the greed and formulated this question, which you wouldn't have gotten.
I would have gotten
anyway.
it then.
No, because it would have stuck out too much because the actual quote was like fucking long as shit. I was like, I don't want to come up with another bunch of long ass quotes. So I just took the snippet, but I think that was a fair question.
I agree. I think it was a fair question for Ben.
Moving on to number 6. The movie is, and I purposely didn't give this one to Ben because I'm pretty sure Ben has seen it. Movie is Field of Dreams.
Good call.
And
one of Ben's Kevin Costner baseball movies.
Yep.
I think I even know what the quote is that you're going to say here. So
you should.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know the quote as well. We'll see if I know the right version of it, though.
Okay, so here we go. Option A, if you build it, they will come. Option B, if you build it, we will come. Or option C, if you build it, he will come.
I feel like I've seen this correction before. A, I think, is probably the misquoted one, but I'm going to go with C. If you build it, he will come.
All right. Option C, if you build it, he will come, is correct.
Let's go.
Jared, as soon as you said it, I got upset.
I always thought it was they will come. And
Which
like
is yeah.
I didn't even know this movie. I just know that saying. Same with like greed is good. I didn't know that was from Wall Street until I was like doing this article, but I'm like, yeah, it's kind of whack that like, I know the wrong quote, but I don't know the right quote or the movie. Well, we're moving on. We got 2 questions left. Jeremy's up 2-1.
So this is my last chance, or I have 2 more? I have 1 more, right?
I guess this is your last chance, Ben, because I mean, if you get it and Jeremy gets it wrong,
then we're tied. I love it.
We'd have a tie. But let's just go through it and see what happens. The movie is Apollo 13, and okay, here we go. This is a tough one. This is probably my favorite one on the list, actually. Option A, Houston, we've had a problem. Option B, Houston, we have a problem. Or option C, Houston, we got a problem.
It's definitely not we have a problem, because doesn't everyone say that all the time? I've seen this movie like 3 times, but I was probably like 16 the last time I've seen it. I'm going to go with, I feel like it's Tom Hanks who says it. Houston, we got a problem. C.
Ben, I think you just gave me the game.
Ben goes with option C. Houston, we got a problem. Ben, you got a problem because that's wrong. It is actually option A. Houston, we've had a problem. So unfortunately, Ben, I guess that's one of the downfalls of the competition. We already know that you lost, but we'll go through number 8 for Jeremy, just to see what he gets.
Just to rub it in.
Just to stick it to him.
This is a real punishment too, because I got to watch a 6-hour-long movie next week and this movie.
Yeah, this is not the week you want to lose this. We got a long movie coming up on top of this punishment movie.
All right, and this is now Jeremy's 4th and final question. The movie is Titanic. Option A, I'm the king of the world. Option B, king of the world. Or option C, I'm finally the king of the world.
Well, C doesn't sound right to me. Is the difference between A and B just I'm?
Correct. That is the difference. That's the difference between A and B.
Interesting. So, I'll say Leo wasn't feeling egocentric and he just said king of the world.
Ooh, Jeremy, you did not get that one correct. It was actually, I'm the king of the world. The common misquote, I think, was just him saying king of the world. But it looks like Jeremy...
Damn it, now I'm upset I got that last one wrong.
Didn't need it.
2-1. And I'm honestly, I'm shocked you guys got as many as you did. I thought this was pretty difficult. But, Ben, how are you feeling about this? Actually, before we go, let's do the tiebreaker, just because it actually fits with the movie we're reviewing this week. It is Lord of the Rings related. However, it is from the Fellowship of the Ring. This isn't a commonly misquoted line. I just didn't know what the fuck he was saying like the first 4 times I watched the movie. This is the scene when Gandalf is fighting the Balrog and he falls off of the bridge. Option A, run, you fools. Option B, fly, you fools. Or option C, flee, you fools.
For 2 points?
Well, Ben and I both watched this with captions, so we both read this line.
Didn't they? And doesn't he say it again at the start of this movie?
And yeah, it does come up again at the beginning of this movie, so...
I don't know
it
for
for
sure, but
sure.
I'm like 90% sure he says flee, you fools.
Oh!
It's fly. It is fly. I read it.
No, it is fly. I thought he said flee as well, Ben. I also actually had no idea what the fuck he was saying. I'm just like, what the fuck did he say?
This game was not made for me then if I watch movies with closed captioning and still get it wrong.
All right. Well, with that being said, it looks like Ben's got to watch the punishment movie. Jeremy, you got the list handy? Let's see what he's got.
I do have the list in front of me. Ben, there are 12 movies on this punishment list. Last time you picked Mulan. Give me a number 1 through 12. We'll see what you're watching this week.
I'll just go with good old 1.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Maybe the worst one on this list, Artemis Fowl, streaming on Disney Plus.
Oh God. At least it's free, but that sounds long as shit too. Fuck.
I don't know about the runtime. All I know is that it sucks.
Is this like a Harry Potter spinoff, or is it like...
It's based on a book.
I guess I don't know much about this.
Detective or something, right?
It's got a Metacritic score of 31.
Yeah, I see 31, 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it is 2 hours long. So I will be watching about 6 hours worth of movies this fucking week.
Fuck.
I think it says an hour 35 on IMDb.
Oh, it says hour 35? I see hour 55.
That's the extended cut.
Oh, I keep getting...
Yeah, you do have to watch the director's extended cut here.
Damn.
Well, Ben, we can look forward to that review next week. Are you going to watch Artemis Fowl first or Return of the King?
Well, I'm pretty sure Artemis Fowl is based on actually Lord of the Rings, so I'll probably watch the what is it called? Return of the King first. I don't want to be spoiled. Artemis Fowl is Frodo's kid, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they walk through Artemis Fowl somewhere between the Shire and Mordor. But anyway, let's get into our second of 3 reviews for The Lord of the Rings. This time we're talking about The Two Towers. This movie was released on December 18th, 2002. Has a runtime of 2 hours, 59 minutes, making it the second longest. 1 minute longer than Fellowship. Did you guys feel that extra minute while you were watching it?
No.
I did.
And again, this was directed by Peter Jackson, based on the books by J.R.R. Tolkien. Last week, I believe I said, we wanted some structure when we were going to do these reviews. So I said, we're not going to do a plot recap, but we are going to kind of go through points in order. And then we went right into a plot recap. So we're going to do the same thing this week. I'm just not going to lie to you beforehand. And again, same as last week, no future spoilers. Really only pertains to you, Bob. Ben and I are watching these for the first time. We may talk about some stuff that happened in Fellowship, but we're not going to talk about anything that happens in Return of the King. Are you boys ready to talk about The Two Towers?
Can't wait.
Let's go.
So before we get into the plot stuff, what were just your general thoughts on this viewing? Ben, we'll start with you.
I thought after the movie, I was like, wow, not a lot of Frodo. That was not a Frodo and Sam movie. That was a Aragorn movie. And I thought it was better because of it, but I just assumed it was going to be way more Frodo. I thought he was like the actual main star, and there's not even that much Gandalf either. Maybe there is more so in the extended cut for both of those, but yeah, this was Aragorn's movie.
We'll save our final ranking when we're done next week with Return of the King, but after just your first viewing here, do you think it's better or worse than Fellowship?
It's tough because I just watched it yesterday. Let me rephrase that. I finished it yesterday, and I think I like this movie better than the first one because we kind of know the characters already. We're not introduced to too many more. You get the king of Rohan and his daughter and just kind of those characters. But other than that, you don't get too many new characters, and so it's kind of easier to follow along, which is why at the end of the day, I did like this movie better.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much right with you there. I definitely agree. The best thing that this movie does is demote all of the hobbits to either the B or C plots, and we really get to focus on Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and Gandalf a little bit as well. Overall, I really liked this one. I was surprised at some of the things they were able to fix between the movies, because I know that they just recorded these or filmed everything all at the same time and then went through in the edits and kind of decided where each movie was going to begin and end. But the pacing I thought was way better. They actually have high-speed slow motion in this one instead of the cheap-looking, just reduced the speed in post that they had in the first movie. And I thought the score was better utilized in this movie as well. So that was all stuff that I didn't expect to improve, and I thought all of those things were better. Overall, though, I'd say Two Towers has higher highs and lower lows. It's hard for me to say which one between Fellowship and Two Towers is better at this moment, but I might be leaning Two Towers right now. We'll have to see next week where I kind of rank all of them. What about you, Bob?
No, for me, I I've definitely seen this one the fewest amount of times because I've often started with Fellowship thinking I'm going to watch all three, and then it never happens. And then there's other times where I'm just like, I want to watch Lord of the Rings. Let me watch the last one, right?
But this is your rush hour theory. You watch Fellowship while you're pre-gaming, you're out during the Two Towers, and then you're hammered back home watching Return of the King.
If you drank the amount of time, you would be in the hospital. Oh man. No, but Jeremy, I actually both of you mentioned it. I couldn't agree more. The fact that Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are clearly like get more screen time and are the A plot is so much better because I don't know. And we touched on it last week how Frodo, played by Elijah Wood, something about him is just like not that charismatic, and he's nobody's favorite part of this trilogy. Even like hardcore Lord of the Rings fans are not like, oh yeah, Elijah Wood, he really kills it, you know. So it's nice to see that Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn take over, and it would make you think that like, oh, the first one came out, they really realized what they had, that people like these guys, they're the better part. Let's put them more in the second movie. But Jeremy, you touched on it. They filmed these all back to back to back. So it's like, where did those little tweaks come? I don't know, but that's what I like. And that's the reason I like this movie a lot is those three's interactions and basically everything they got going on. And yeah, what's going on with the hobbits in this movie, other than Gollum, is just it's kind of nothing special. But I definitely like this one more than Fellowship. And I don't know. I can't decide between this and Return of the King as what the best one is. I know a lot of people consider this one of the better ones. But after I watch Return of the King, when we're all finally done, I'll let you know. But definitely like this more than Fellowship.
Yeah, I agree with your higher highs and lower lows point, though, Jer. This movie had some points where I was just like, come on, what's going on here? Let's keep moving. But then other times I was like, I get why Bob loves these movies so much.
I totally agree because, yeah, there are some parts, and I think I know which ones you guys are going to bring up, where I'm just like, this is just making the movie so much longer. Like, they're just not interesting. And when it comes to those sort of all pay off in the end. Not really pay off, but, like, it just makes it more cohesive. But there's definitely points where you're watching it and you're like, okay, like, I don't need this in here. But then eventually you probably will need that in there, like, when you watch the entire thing put together. But I think I know some of the ones you're talking about. I'm sure we'll get into it.
Well, let's get into the plot of The Two Towers. It starts with a recap, in case you forgot what happened in Fellowship, and the scene where Gandalf is fighting the Barlog. He jumps off the edge of that little cliff he's hanging on, which I said was kind of lackluster in the first movie. And he says to everyone else, fly, you fools, fly. Some people think he says flee. Those people are idiots.
Those people are idiots.
And, but apparently he jumps off so that he can fall epically and catch a sword that comes out of nowhere and continue to fight the Barlog, which is pretty sweet. And something I caught this time that I didn't catch in Fellowship is apparently the Barlog has wings, but they must purely be fashion over function, because if it actually had wings that worked, then I think it could stop itself from falling this far. But either way, this is a pretty cool scene. We'll come back to it a little bit later. We realize that this is Frodo's dream, or maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And we find Frodo and Sam. They're lost, but Gollum is able to find them, and they're able to convince Gollum to show them the way to Mordor. Do you guys have any Gollum hot takes that you want to throw out there?
Hot takes. That's a good one. I don't know. I think that I'd be shocked if you guys said anything different, but Andy Serkis is basically known as like the mocap guy. It basically started with this movie and how good of a job he did. And if you guys really want to get freaked out, watch some of the behind the scenes stuff on YouTube. They have it where Andy Serkis is in his mocap suit and you see him doing all the crazy shit that Gollum does. It's really fucking freaky. I think he has a great performance. It's funny because looking at Gollum, he obviously this movie's 20 years old, right? There's sometimes when you see Gollum and you're like, oh, that doesn't look that good. Like, oh, you can tell this is 20 years old. But then there's other times where you see him and you're like, holy fuck, like that looks pretty good, you know? Like, I don't know. I like Gollum. I think it was really cool. And just, yeah, it was cool. Imagine 20 years ago seeing a guy like that on screen. Like, how do you create a character like that 20 years ago? And I think they did it about as good as you could have done.
Yeah, my first take was not like hot or cold or anything. I just thought he was like evil Dobby, whatever it is from Harry Potter. And then like the more it goes on, I really like the character. He does, like Bob said, it doesn't look great always, but I love the fact that he has this like tortured inner conflict where he wants to be Smeagol, but Gollum like comes out because he wants the ring, and it's like it's super. It's just I didn't see it coming. I just assumed he was going to be bad the whole time. But you see, like you almost start rooting for like Smeagol to come out, and you just want him to be good. You want him to be like kind of morph back into a hobbit, which I'm assuming he was a hobbit. They don't really come out and say it, but like I root for him at the end, and at the end it's still kind of up in the air whether Gollum's going to take control or Smeagol. But I found it super interesting, and I'm glad they had the wherewithal, or like Tolkien had like such an interesting character and not just had an evil little hobbit, I guess is what he is, but he's more than that, and I thought it was super cool.
Yeah, I think the CG and everything like holds up really well. I know Peter Jackson's company, I believe it's Weta Digital, and Andy Serkis kind of helped pioneer this whole performance capture thing, and I think it all holds up well. It looks good, I'd say the majority of the time. I will say that the voice gets a little bit annoying. I do like the dynamic between Smeagol and Gollum, but I think the voice over time was getting a little more irritating, but not quite like a Jar Jar Binks bad.
I think the voice will grow on you. I think it'll grow on you, Jeremy.
I don't know. It hasn't so far.
Because I like it.
It hasn't so far, but, we'll give it some time. We'll see if I come around to it. In the meantime, we see Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and they are running and running and running. And they're chasing the Uruk-hai, who are also running. And I think about 15 minutes into the movie is when we hear, I think it's Saruman say the two towers. Ben, were you playing the drinking game? Did you take a shot at this point?
Of course, I wasn't drinking for this movie, but I went and took a shot.
Okay, I respect that.
Yep.
And then we're introduced to Rohan, home of the Horse Lords, and we see the oldest man who's ever been put on film, and the definitely not a bad guy, Grima Wormtongue.
They really aren't hiding anything with that, are they?
Grima Wormtongue, and he looks like the most evil character ever invented. He hasn't seen the sun for like 40 years.
Grima Wormtongue, obviously evil right away, but he did have a couple of good lines. I kind of liked his character. Didn't have a huge footprint in the movie, but there were some good moments.
Yeah, he was good, but then he, I don't know. When we talk about the scene where Theoden becomes the king again, it bothered me.
And then we also learned that the king's one son, Karl Urban, who I didn't pick up on at first, but it took me a while, realized it was Karl Urban. He gets banished.
Wait.
Well, I know
from Workaholics?
No, it's
no, from
that would be great.
And Thor Ragnarok.
That's what it is. Jeremy's stuff. The stuff I don't watch, but he looked familiar. It looked more familiar like from a CBS show or some shit, but
I can't remember his actual name.
Éomer.
Éomer is
Éomer.
That's not his son.
It's his nephew, Jared. Come on, try to keep up.
His nephew.
Oh, my bad. Relationships get a little confusing.
The names get rough too.
But after that, we realize Merry and Pip are still prisoners, and the orcs want to eat them, but the Uruk-hai aren't having it. And there's some pretty funny back and forth between the orcs and Uruk-hai here.
Yeah, that was pretty funny for me too when they're trying to eat these two little hobbits, and instead just full out battle each other. And then I think it's Éomer and his Karl Urban comes back into play here, but that was funny to me. They're debating whether or not to eat these two little hobbits.
I love when they're like, let's just eat their legs. They don't need legs.
That's a great line.
And so Karl Urban intercepts the Uruk-hai, and his squad kills all of them. They then run into Aragorn and the rest of the gang there, and Aragorn asks Karl Urban, hey, have you seen hobbits? They were prisoners of these Uruk-hai. And Karl Urban is like, no, we killed them all. And Aragorn's like, well, they would have looked like children to you. To which Karl Urban assured him, no, we killed everyone, even the children. There's nobody left alive.
We fucking killed everybody.
Everyone's dead, dude. Don't even bother. They're dead as hell.
That's basically what he says. And he turns, yeah, look behind me at that giant burning fucking pile that you somehow didn't see. Where Legolas's telescopes for eyes, you guys somehow didn't see the giant burning pile of flesh.
Did I miss that part where the line where he says, Legolas, look with your elf eyes?
I wish they said that. I wish they said that differently. I wish it was like the eye of something that Legolas has.
Yeah, the
your
elf eyes line.
Nah, I love it.
It felt like a 10-year-old wrote that part, but I loved it.
Yeah, that was their way of explaining that elves can see farther than humans.
And I got it. I got it right away.
It worked.
Aragorn, they go check to see if Merry and Pip are still there, and he's able to, like, CSI reconstruct the entire scene as it happened.
Jeremy, I felt
fucking love it.
I felt like this was a Criminal Minds scene where they all the characters pop up around him, and he's just. I love it because I guess you got to just go with it. Aragorn would just be this great tracker, but he's just seeing things in there. He's like, oh, and they crawled here, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here. He would not
see.
This.
I don't feel that way, Ben. I thought that you guys were gonna shit on this scene because yeah, it does sound ridiculous, but like we also have elves and hobbits and fucking all this crazy shit. So I feel like it's just maybe in the world that it is, Aragorn has some sort of supernatural ability to be a really good tracker. I also like earlier when he puts his head on a rock and he's like, their pace is quickened. I'm like, that's fucking sweet, dude. Like, I like that a lot. I don't know. I thought his like super fucking ability to be able to piece together this basic crime scene almost. I liked it. I don't know. It was a cool way how they intercut like the part that they cut out earlier when you thought Pippin was going to get his face smashed in by a horse. I liked that. I don't know. I was a fan of it.
I will say there's a similar scene in, I think, the fourth Fast and Furious movie where Dom Toretto is able to reconstruct the scene of a car crash, and it works a little bit better here than it did there. But Merry and Pip, they're not dead. They were able to escape, and now they're chilling with the trees, aka the Ents. They meet Treebeard, they call him a tree, and he says, no, I'm not a tree. Call me Treebeard. So definitely not confusing there.
Yeah, I'm not a tree. That's like us if we were stumbled upon by creatures who didn't know what we were, and we're like, I'm not a human. My name's Human Man.
Yeah, exactly. I actually like Treebeard. I mean, the scenes that he's in, everything with the Ents is probably like the least interesting stuff in the movie overall. But Treebeard as a character, I liked. He definitely has a couple funnier lines and stuff. So
yeah, he's kind of like almost funny in a way. Some of the stuff he says. He looks when there's close-up shots of him, like when you just see his face, like when they're on top of him, he looks pretty good, especially for being 20 years old. But any other time you see him from a distance, he kind of doesn't look the best. But like, I don't know, Treebeard's funny. I like all the little tree characters you see by the end. Like, I just think they're funny to look at. I thought that was whoever got the privilege of designing those was probably pretty stoked. Pretty cool thing if you think about it.
Yeah, I liked the Treebeard. I think it was funny, at least. At first, it was just, like, cool to see. It was something unique, and, like, once again, 20 years ago, like shout out to them for, like, making it still kind of hold up today. I like that they even acknowledge, though, that it's slow when Treebeard is kind of like, we take forever to talk over here. It's going to take a while before we decide if we want to go to war. And then they just see some burned trees, and they're like, let's get to fucking work. But at least, like, that they acknowledge that they do take forever to do anything.
And then we cut back to Frodo, Sam, and Gollum. They decide they're going to cross the swamp. Nothing too cool happens here other than learning that the ring wraiths have a dragon now. Pretty cool escalation in the ring wraith arsenal of weaponry here.
I was wondering when we would stumble upon dragons, because I don't think they were in the first one.
No, I don't think they were in the first one, other than the reference with the fireworks. But yeah, these are technically Nazgul, but I mean they're dragons. But
sorry. It's like the Walking Dead when they say walkers instead of zombies. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, because there are dragons, like real dragons, and like I know in like The Hobbit and stuff. But like, yeah, pretty fucking badass. Whenever you hear that screech noise, it's just, oh fuck, here they come.
Then we got Aragorn and the gang looking for Merry and Pip, so they run into the forest. They don't find them, but they do find a mystical white figure. And it turns out it is Gandalf the White. And if you guys will indulge me, let me just kind of run through this scene for you real quick before we talk about it. Gandalf tells them the story, and at one point he says, until at last I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountainside, referring to the Barlog. Basically, that fight took so much out of him that he died and then went to space for who knows how long. Time doesn't exist anymore. And when he came back to Middle-earth, he was Gandalf the White. And if that wasn't cool enough, they walk out of the forest and he does this like super whistle. And then on the horizon, this radiant white steed trots along and he says, "This is Shadowfax, the Lord of all horses." It doesn't get any cooler than this.
It's so badass. It is so fucking badass. And I never understood, even to this day, I don't understand. I'm assuming it's just like he dies and because of like the trials and tribulations he went through, he's reborn like a step up as a white wizard. Obviously a white wizard is a step up from a gray wizard, but yeah, so freaking sweet. He looks so fucking cool, and that scene is awesome. And the whole thing with the horse, I just love how Legolas is like, "That's blankety blank blank. I didn't know it existed." And Gandalf's like, "Yeah, it's my horse, motherfucker."
And its name is Shadowfax, like the coolest name ever.
Great name. Yeah, that was pretty sweet. That was definitely the coolest part of the movie because it finally you knew he was alive, not because Bob spoiled it last week, but just because you knew he was in all these movies.
Right.
I liked his line when he's like, where Aragorn goes like Gandalf the Grey, he's like, "Huh, that is what they used to call me, huh?" And then just kind of goes on and tells his story then.
So then we cut back over to Gollum leading the boys to the Black Gate of Mordor.
And then that's when Sam's badass decides to fall, right?
I bet you guys didn't think they got to Mordor an hour into the second movie.
No, that's a good call. I did not. And at this point, Ben didn't even think they'd have the ring yet.
They're trying to get the ring, right?
I thought that, you look at these long-ass fucking books and these movies are so long. I thought their first trip to the Black Gate probably could have been left out of the movie because looking back on it now, like if you took that scene out, what are you missing?
You're missing Frodo apparently looks like a boulder. They're little hobbits, but when he moves his cape around, they're a boulder who can be hidden then.
Oh, well,
well, those are magic elf capes, right?
They are. And same with
the
the rope they had around Gollum's neck. That's also like an enchanted elven rope. That's why it's like burning Gollum and he has to like listen to them or whatever. Yeah, the enchanted capes is something that I always assumed. Because I'm like, how the fuck could they not see him? I just assumed it was some elven magic, but I actually, on this rewatch, I heard them mention it, that they were elvish capes or close. And I never knew that. Like, I've watched this movie a good amount of times, and I'd never fucking heard that line before. So I was just like, oh, I'm happy there's some clarification on that. Because I was like, yeah, how the fuck do you not see them under a blanket? Or at all? Because when they walk away, he's just like, okay, we're good. I'm like, what if they turn around, dude? They're like 5 feet away from you.
Can you just kind of walk me through this part? I guess I'm a little confused. So they get to the Black Gate, and I know, Jerry, you're going to kind of go through it all. But then their next step is to find a tunnel to go through it or whatever. That's what Gollum brings up. But, like, they backtrack so much. Are they still looking for a tunnel? I guess I'm just confused by their whole journey after this point. Like, where the fuck they go?
It's not necessarily a tunnel. There is a tunnel into Mordor, but it's like the back door. Like they basically have to go all the way around
to
get into this. Like the tunnel isn't like the way in. I mean, the tunnel is the way in, but it's like you have to get all the way around to the other side and then take the like little tunnel under in or over in.
Yeah, I don't think I even realized until right now that they get to that gate right away and then continue walking for the rest of the movie. I don't think I even realized where they were going.
Exactly.
But either way, Aragorn and that gang show up to Rohan. They have to check their weapons at the door, but they do not part an old man from his walking stick. At which point Grima is like, why didn't you take the wizard's staff? That was your one job at the door. Gandalf realizes that it's Saruman who's controlling the king, and he's going to try to get him out of there. Saruman, through the old man, says, you have no power here, Gandalf the Grey. At which point Gandalf says, psych, it's Gandalf the White.
Yeah, and then he performs an exorcism.
And then he does. He says, I will draw you, Saruman, as poison is drawn from the wound. And Gandalf is basically the coolest person in any fictional story ever.
He is, dude. It's fucking sweet.
Yeah, every line he has is like greatly is so he says it so perfectly and so cool. I'm like, fuck, this guy's awesome.
It's just epic. Like everything he says is just like, oh my god, dude, that was sweet. Like it's just so cool.
Wait, can someone real quick need one last disclaimer here? Is Saruman the other wizard, or is that the total bad guy? I thought Sauron was the other wizard.
No. Sauron is the bad guy. Saruman is the other wizard.
God damn it! They should have came up with better names.
Dude, I do not know why they decided to put the two bad guys with the most similar fucking name in the world.
It's like if they made this movie today with like in 2020 terms and named them Bill and Bob, you'd be like, who the fuck? What? Which one's who?
No, not even that, Ben. It's like Tom and Tommy.
It's so stupid.
It's like Bill and Will. But yes, Gandalf is successful at exorcising Saruman, and we get to meet Theoden. He is no longer the oldest man ever. He just becomes kind of a regular dude. Shortly after, the kids that we were introduced to earlier, who were escaping a village that was being pillaged by the Uruk-hai, show up. And there's a discussion about the imminent war that is coming. And we get our first conflict between Theoden and Aragorn, and much like in Fellowship, with the dynamic between Aragorn and Boromir, I really like the back and forth between Aragorn and Theoden in this movie.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I agree because it also just makes sense. Like he wants to protect his people, but or Aragorn wants. He realizes it's something bigger than protecting your people. So you get both sides. It's an actual good conflict.
And as they discuss, they ultimately decide they're going to go to Helm's Deep. Not necessarily Aragorn's first choice, but that's where they're going. And Gandalf finds Shadowfax. He says he's going to go meet up with Karl Urban and says, I'm going to ride out of this movie for the next 90 plus minutes. Keep an eye out for me around then. That's more or less his line there.
Word for word.
We see Frodo and Sam. They're still just moving along. Again, I'm only now realizing where they're going. Frodo is becoming more and more corrupt the longer he wears the ring. We also get the Smeagol Gollum back and forth. Smeagol basically tells Gollum to get out. It's Smeagol's turn. And I don't know about you guys, maybe it's just me because I'm not super into the hobbits in this movie, but the Frodo becoming more and more corrupt beeline in this movie, not doing a whole lot for me.
Yeah, I didn't really need it.
You just don't really, I mean, you don't care yet. It's not really important yet, him being corrupted by the ring. And you just, I mean, he's holding the ring of power. Like, it's going to corrupt anybody. It's sort of like his fight against, like, the power of the ring and, like, his good-hearted hobbit nature. And, like, Frodo's the only person, like, brave enough and mentally tough enough to carry this ring is what you're supposed to sort of feel like. And I don't know. I totally agree with you guys that the whole Hobbit plot in this movie, I'm just like, get me to fucking Helm's Deep, bro.
Yeah.
I'm trying to throw down with some Mordecai. Like, it's just like the other stuff is so cool that, like, you need this, right? Like, you need the Frodo, Sam, and Gollum storyline because it's very important for the overall story over the three films. But, like, when you're watching this movie, you're like, I don't need this right now. Like, give me fucking Aragorn, give me Legolas. Like, but you do need it. Like it's a piece of the puzzle, obviously, but it's just I'm at like the corner of the puzzle and there's a fucking bomb going off. I don't give a shit about the fucking leaf in the corner, you know?
And yeah, I assume it comes back to play like in the third movie heavily. Like I'm assuming it gets super tough for Frodo and they have to like kind of lay these little pebbles down for you to track along. But I'm just like, fuck, this is so boring. I'm going to look at my phone during that part because I'm just like, I get it. He's having inner turmoil, but he's not going to do anything. It's not like he's going to put the ring on and the bad guys are going to win right now. So I'm not really paying attention.
Right.
They see an enemy army approaching. They're marching with a bunch of Timothy Oliphants, which is pretty cool. And then they are ultimately captured by Faramir. And we'll come back to them in a little bit, get some more info on him. Meanwhile, Aragorn is thinking about Liv Tyler while also simultaneously definitely leading on Theoden's daughter.
Oh yeah, this is tough. Tough look for Aragorn here.
And the Rohan party moving towards Helm's Deep gets attacked by orcs and Uruk-hai riding hyenas, sure that's not the actual name of them, but they definitely look like hyenas. And pretty cool battle scene here. And then, oh no, Aragorn dies. I guarantee he won't come back in this story anytime soon.
Dude, this bothered me the most. I think it was a cool scene. I like the action scene here. But when he fell off, I'm like, they did this in the first one. I get it. Gandalf's not dead, and I know Aragorn's not dead. Why do we have to do it like this?
Yeah, I mean, spoiler, Aragorn doesn't die. And at this point, we've had fake-out deaths from Frodo, Gandalf, Merry and Pip, and Aragorn. So I assume we're just going to get a fake-out death from every character in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it was... the whole thing was trying to have them explain that relationship with him and his elvish lady, which I still do not fully understand.
In which we didn't need.
Lands. No, you really didn't. And it's some of the Undying Lands and her being immortal. And I to be honest with you, I never like normally like when there's something about this movie I really like and want to know more about, I'll watch like a YouTube video or read like an article or like maybe even look it up in the goddamn book, you know. But the relationship between Aragorn and I can't remember her fucking name. Aemir?
Liv Tyler.
What's her name? Liv Tyler. The relationship between Aragorn and
I don't know what her... It's Arwen.
And then Eowyn is the name of the blonde lady.
God damn it.
Arwen and Eowyn. That's why it's so confusing. His two love interests are Arwen and Eowyn. Anyway, so
maybe
for
it's
Arwen,
just an honest mistake, you know? He can't tell them apart, can't tell their names apart.
But no, yeah, honest God, possibly. But I never like looked up anything about their like relationship because like as a kid when I watched these movies, that was the part I cared about the least. I was like, I don't give a shit about the love life of Aragorn, you know. And like even with Eowyn in this movie, I'm like, I don't care. Like it just never did anything for me. And like looking back on it now, like having a different like look and take on these movies, it still doesn't do anything for me. So like I didn't care about that. So I feel like him falling off a cliff. Maybe just don't have him fall off the cliff. Maybe have him get injured in battle, and like they have to like get him to Helm's Deep. And there's a doctor or a not medieval, but there's a Middle Earth doctor who's probably some sort of fucking I don't know.
Another hottie like, for him to fall in love with.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, but like have something like that. Like I don't like the fake out death, and I also don't like the horse that was sent there by Eowyn or Arwen. I don't know. Cut this part. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Leave this part out of the movie. It shaves 5 minutes off the runtime, and it just makes the movie better.
My thinking is I guess you in a 9-hour long one movie, because in theory that's what it is for the creators. You need like a love story, but do you though? Like the whole movie's good, and I'm never done. Like other movies, it makes sense. You need the love story because it drives these people. But I'm like, do we really need this part though? It just made me like upset. The love story for me here is Frodo and Sam. Still, it was only just pounded in my head more that those two belong together, and I'm pretty sure they do end up together. But Bob, don't spoil that part for me.
Aragorn doesn't really come back. I feel like every time you guys have a criticism, I'm like, oh, it comes back. Like in the overarching, storyline, it all makes sense. The Aragorn thing, I mean, it makes sense in the end, but it just, for me, it was never the part of the movie that I liked personally.
And yeah, skipping ahead a little bit, there is the whole scene with Liv Tyler talking to her dad. Is that her dad, the other elf that we met in the first movie?
Oh, that's Elrond. Yeah, that's her dad.
17 years older. I did a little look up because they look too close in age to me.
Well, they're elves. Their age doesn't. I mean,
I know,
they're like 10,000 years apart.
But yeah, I still don't quite understand like the conflict here. He talks to her and eventually says, whether by sword or the slow decay of time, Aragorn will die, and there will be no comfort for you. So are her options basically like be with Aragorn, but then you have to watch him die because you're immortal, or don't be with him and then question what could have been for the rest of your immortal life? I don't really get it.
No, Jeremy, what it is I think, so if she stays with Aragorn, she'll live and he'll die because she's immortal. I believe that they have the opportunity to be mortal. Like she could choose a mortal life and be with Aragorn. So he's basically saying, like, don't do that. That's really stupid. Like, you're a fucking elf. So, like, that's not even on the table for you. So, like, but they don't really mention it. And then basically all the elves are leaving and going to the Undying Lands, which is just like a spot for these elves to like basically nobody else can get there. It's like I don't know, it's where elves go, you know? Like they're saying like we're out.
Yeah, they're basically jumping on the lifeboats, getting out of there.
Yeah, basically like they're getting out of here. They're out of the war. They're like the time of elves is over. Like they're getting the fuck out of here. So she's just like, okay, come with us. We're going here, or you can stay back and be with Aragorn, and he's gonna fucking die, and you're gonna live forever. Or option C, which I don't even know why you would think about, but you can choose to be mortal and live with Aragorn. You know, like it's just, and it's the way they explain it is weird. It's just I don't like this part of the movie, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I don't quite get it. Maybe it'll make more sense after the next one. But either way, we learn a little bit more about Faramir, who is Boromir's brother. Who could have guessed with names so similar? And he basically decides he wants the ring. No corruption necessary with him. He's the improved version of Boromir. Just wants the ring, not even having been around it that long. And I'll admit I don't know exactly where they are at this point. The geography in this movie gets a little confusing for me.
What, that map didn't do it for you, Jer? You don't know where everything is?
No, that map that looks like it was drawn by a 10-year-old? Nah, didn't quite do it.
There's like 4 words there. It's just Rohan, Helm's Deep, Gondor, Mordor. And it's just like, there it is. There's the map.
Yeah, that wasn't the most helpful for me. But we don't spend too much time with them. We go back to Aragorn. Turns out not dead. And rides back to Helm's Deep and enters the keep in the most slow-motion, badass way possible.
So sexy. Just a big sexy man just coming right in. He's like, hey, I'm alive, motherfuckers. That was fucking awesome.
His arm is almost torn off. They couldn't open the door for this guy. I was pissed at that part.
It looks awesome. They start talking to each other, forming some battle plans for the impending attack. And we get a little more arguing between Aragorn and Theoden. Probably the best back and forth where Theoden's like, what do you want me to do? Just tell all my men they're screwed? I gotta give them at least some hope. I gotta give them something to fight for, even if we are screwed in reality. And probably like the apex interaction between these two in their relationship here. So I like that a lot. Then we move into the pre-battle suit-up. Every good movie has that pre-battle suit-up montage. And then the elf army shows up because I believe during that Liv Tyler part, Cate Blanchett started like mind talking to I forget his name again, but Liv Tyler's dad, and basically says you should send your army there.
Yeah, I think that's what.
And then we also see that other elf that we already know, but he's kind of the leader of the elf army. Then we get some thunder, we get some rain, and we see the army appear on the horizon.
Dude, you know when my goosebumps hit, actually, Jeremy, is when they're all lined up. They're on the fucking top of the castle.
I think I know the line. I got it written down here.
No, this is actually not an actual quote, but we'll get to that. The part that gets me is when it starts to rain and you hear the sound of the rain on their armor. That I'm just like, oh, let's fucking go, baby.
I like that a lot. And then when Aragorn says, show them no mercy, for you shall receive none. That's when I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's see a battle scene. Basically, they all get ready, the archers. Eventually, they start shooting shots. We see ladders rising, attacking the wall. And you got Gimli and Legolas going back and forth with each other, calling out their kill streaks. Really cool battle scene here. I mean, I think the Battle of Helm's Deep lived up to my expectations.
Yeah. Dude, it's so fucking sweet. And it's even cooler as someone like me that's seen this scene. I watched the Battle of Helm's Deep because obviously it's like intercut with like shit with like Frodo and Sam and all that bullshit. But there used to be a video on YouTube where it was like the entire thing without those cuts straight through. I used to watch that before like a night of drinking. I'm like, let me put on the Battle of Helm's Deep and get myself amped. Like, dude, I love it. It's so fucking sweet.
Yeah, this battle's pretty great. The thing that's nice about it is like when you watch other like even in like Game of Thrones when there's battles, or I just watched The King on Netflix, like when there's battles, I don't know who the fuck is who and I don't know how they can tell. And that's I get upset when it's so obvious, I guess. Like you know who the bad guys are here, but when it's a huge battle scene, it's nice to know because then I'm like, okay, I get that they understand who they're killing right now. When Gimli's like, how many are you at? I'm at 2. And then, which is a great line. Gimli and Legolas talking there. I love that part.
Dude, their
But
banter is the funniest. It's hysterical.
Yeah, they're super funny. And when Aragorn has to throw Gimli and he's like, "Don't tell Legolas." I love that shit.
Don't tell the elf.
But this action scene's actually pretty good. It's not like super convoluted. You can actually tell what's going on, which when it started raining, Bob, that part is sweet in retrospect. But when it first happened, I was like, fuck this I'm not going to be able to tell what the fuck's going on with it being dark and rainy and muddy, but it ended up being pretty solid.
Yeah, usually that's all used to like hide bad CG, but everything looked pretty good in this. Ben, having watched Game of Thrones, where does this rank compared to Battle of the Bastards or whatever, Battle of the North, whatever they called the last one from the last season?
Well, yeah, Battle of the North isn't as great. Battle of the Bastards is like one of the coolest. It's like one of the best episodes ever. I would probably rank Battle of the Bastards, but that's just because I've had more time to like think and linger on that one. But this one, Helm's Deep, like I'll actually remember the name of it. So, which is, that doesn't really happen when you watch movies. You don't actually remember like what the actual battle name is. And now I know this better than like I know the Battle of Gettysburg. So there's that for it.
Yeah, I might put Battle of the Bastards above it myself, but that's one of the few episodes of Game of Thrones that I've seen multiple times. But anyway, we cut back to Merry and Pip at the gathering of the Ents. After a long discussion, they decided that they're not orcs, which I liked a lot. But they also decide, nah, we're going to pass on the war. That's not for us. We go back to Helm's Deep, and they're kind of climbing the bridge up to the main door. Looks like some like legit siege tactics, the way they have all the shields up, hiding the battering ram, or whatever you would call it, to try to knock the door down. And we learned earlier that Helm's Deep is fortified pretty heavily, except for one little sewer hole, which is apparently its only weak spot and very prominently placed in the front.
Yeah, I thought it was like in the back. You would think Theoden or whatever would just be like, we have great walls, but you know what? We do have this one spot right in the middle of the wall where there's a huge opening that you can just walk through if you just blow it up.
Yeah, not entirely sure why they didn't choose to cover that, or maybe put some reinforcements around it or something. But
just put it, in the back somewhere.
I liked that dynamic though. That Helm's Deep is this like impenetrable fortress, but it's like does have the one weakness. Like I don't know. I thought that was cool.
Feels very Death Star.
Yeah,
right.
It's just like Mordor then too. It's like you can't get in the front, but there's this one little spot that they somehow don't know about.
So they start loading bombs into this little sewer hole, and then apparently the first ever Olympic torchbearer runs in with his torch, and he just takes, 6 or 7 arrows to the chest and face, but he doesn't break his stride. He just keeps running until he's finally able to light those bombs. And that explosion goes off, and it rivals Hiroshima. I don't think they needed to place those bombs in a sewer. I think if they put them anywhere on that wall, they were knocking that thing down.
Yeah, Jay, that was great. That guy took 6 arrows to the face, and as soon as he popped up, I'm like, is this just a suicide bomber? And that's what he was. He did a belly flop out of those bombs and just sent the whole castle flying.
I like the part though when he's running in and Aragorn can just see everything on the battlefield. He's just like, Legolas! Like, how the fucking Legolas even hear you? He's like, Legolas, bring him down. And Legolas is like, oh shit. And then he just fucking unloads him with arrows. That was cool. And unfortunately, yeah, he made it in. But yeah, Jeremy, I totally agree. I feel like you put that bomb anywhere else along the wall, and they're probably going to take it down.
Yeah, it shattered that wall.
Yeah, it went through it pretty easy. We get a lot more fighting now with the wall down. The Uruk-hai are making their way in through there. Aragorn's kind of leading that battle. with a bunch of the elf army, and the leader of the elf army guy that we're supposed to care about gets killed as well. And they're getting their shit pushed in pretty good, so they start to retreat to the keep. We cut again to Treebeard. He's walking with Merry and Pip, comes out of the forest and realizes all his homies got cut down. And he's not happy about it, so he decides, after we spent this entire movie saying we're not going to fight in the war, we're going to fight in the war now. And they decide to march toward Isengard. In Helm's Deep again, everyone's in the keep, all hope seems lost. Aragorn says, you know what, let's give it one last go, let's ride one more time. And then it cuts, and they're all immediately on horseback somehow, before they bust back onto the battlefield. Did that cut come out of nowhere for you guys as well? Did you notice that?
Yeah, I also picked up on that, and I feel like I didn't notice that before. But yeah, where were the horses?
It's just such a weird cut where they're all just like, they're talking back and forth, and they're like, okay, let's go. And then it cuts to the door, cuts to them, and they're on horses.
Isn't Rohan technically what the kingdom of the horses or whatever? So they were lingering.
I guess so.
They were like ready to go though. Like,
yeah, and apparently in this franchise, you can just make horses appear out of nowhere, as we learned in the last movie. But they bust out the door. They start fighting the Uruk-hai down the bridge there. And it's pretty funny. The two guys in the back are just kind of swinging their swords at nothing. I guess they assumed that something would be added in post there, but nothing was, so they just kind of look silly. They make their way back down to the battlefield, and then Aragorn remembers to look to the east at dawn. And there they see Gandalf and Keith Urban. And they all decide to ride down the steepest mountain that you could possibly ride down.
So steep, dude. I was like, these horses would be falling.
did you watch? So I knew that scene was coming. So earlier in the movie, when they showed like a long shot of Helm's Deep, I looked at the mountain that they were running down. It's a straight down fucking like cliff. I was like, there's no way you could run down it. Like,
yeah, I don't know how all those horses weren't eating shit, but Gandalf basically blinds everyone in the enemy army, so they're able to kind of take him out that way. I don't know about you guys, I felt a little let down by Gandalf here. I was hoping he would just kind of like go super OP and kill everyone. He doesn't do too much.
they were basically all cleaned up though. I mean, like they were done. Like obviously, like Rohan and Theoden and all them, like they were basically out of men, and you could see that there was still a good amount of orcs and Uruk-hai there, but like a significant amount of them were killed. You know, like they beat the fuck out of that army about as best as they could. So like when Gandalf came, they just sort of had to clean up. You know, like there was obviously they were outnumbered still, and they were going to lose the battle without help. But like there wasn't much for him to do.
Sure, I was just expecting him to use some magic or something.
Yeah, could have been cooler. Yeah.
So then we go back to Saruman, who looks out of his tower, realizes that his shit's kind of getting wrecked by the Ents. They break the dam, and I like the part where the one Ent that was set on fire runs into the water to put himself out. That was pretty funny.
Runs towards it, yeah.
Good fun. Just a good quality fun.
Love a good breaking of a dam scene.
We cut to Frodo and Sam. They're still in this movie, I guess. And I don't even know where they are exactly at this point. But
Osgiliath, it's like the outskirts of Minas Tirith, which is like the capital of Gondor. So they're close to like taking over Gondor.
The Ringwraith shows up riding his dragon. That's not a dragon. Frodo basically hands the Ringwraith the ring, but luckily Sam is there to stop him. And the Ringwraith just decides, you know what, maybe next time. You know, I didn't get him this time. He basically offered it to me, but I'm just going to ride away. No sweat. We'll get it later. Cut back again. Sauron's army has to retreat Helm's Deep. Our boys have won the battle. Aragorn again decides to embrace Theoden's daughter, just creating more conflict there with his relationship with Liv Tyler. Faramir decides to let Frodo go. He ends up deciding not to go full Corrupto mode. Lets Frodo go do what he has to do. So him and Sam decide to follow Smeagol, except it's not really Smeagol anymore. It is now Gollum, who is trying to get the ring back himself. And that is where we end Two Towers, and we will pick back up in Return of the King Ben, what do you think's going to happen next?
They're gonna get the ring. I swear. They're gonna find this ring that they've been searching for, and they're gonna do what they need to do.
I will say we expected them to kind of be at their lowest low at this point, at the end of Two Towers here, but they won the battle. So now it's kind of up to the next movie to reintroduce the final bit of conflict and resolve it. But I know it's a long-ass movie, so I'm sure they can do it.
I just hope we get the same kind of ratio. Unless the Frodo stuff is cooler, I hope it's more. I want a lot of Aragorn again and Legolas and Gimli. I don't know how much you can really do since they did a lot of stuff with them in the second one, but I hope it's a lot of them in the third one.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it looks like it might be going that way, but we'll have to wait and see. I think based on the title alone, I got a feeling Aragorn's going to be doing some cool stuff. I'm definitely excited to watch the next one.
Yeah, my actual prediction would be that like somehow he loses the ring or something, or like the bad guys are going to win early in the Return of the King, and then they're going to have to overcome whatever happens early on in the movie and finish off strong.
Bob, how excited are you to finish up this trilogy?
I've always said that Return of the King is my favorite, but after rewatching Two Towers, I was really conflicted. I'm curious to see which one you guys like more once it's all said and done. I'm excited at the prospect of watching this trilogy start to finish for the first time in a long time. I can't wait. It's really almost satisfying when it's all said and done, especially because it's, at least for you guys now, it's such a like famous trilogy and famous movie, obviously. So like it's cool when you finally finish it because it is a big investment on time and there's a lot going on in these movies, so there's a lot to think about. But I'm excited. I can't wait. I don't know when I'm gonna watch it, but I cannot fucking wait to finally put on Return of the King.
All right, well, that's what we got to look forward to next week. Our third and final review in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Return of the King. And we'll also have Ben's punishment review of Artemis Fowl. Ben, did you forget about that already?
Oh my God. I'm hoping you guys forget about it.
Well, I definitely remember, and I'm looking forward to that. So, as always, thank you for listening, and remember, at dawn, look to the east. We'll see you next week.